Okay, so this is my first time trying this, but I've got some good info to give out, so I think I'm just going to go for it. And we're going to start a new game in career mode because that's where all this is going to be important. I'm going to give it a really fancy name, YouTube Examples. And I hate that current flag, so I'm going to find something a little bit more fun. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Kerbal and the Minimus flag. And I'm just going to leave it set on default because it's not going to make much of a difference. Here we go. Sorry if this is a little bit slow, but I'm not optimized for streaming just yet. Okay, we've got the intro. That's all well and good. And we're just going to get right to it. So, first thing we need is a piece of crap spaceship. Yeah, we've heard it all before, Warner. All we're going to start with is a command pod because it's really all you need to get this going. In a few minutes, we're going to, maybe on the next video, we're going to show a couple other ways to do it. Oh, good, we start off with mystery game. And I forgot that because that's not something that you typically would start off with. You'll notice I love action groups, and we don't really have action groups yet because we're just getting started. So this is all we're going to need. And action groups make things easier because you just press one key and it runs through all of what you have linked to it. But here we go. And so 1.0.5 released a whole slew of new biomes. But one of the things that most of the videos that I've been watching won't tell you about is that the Kerbal Space Center has a bunch of biomes in itself. Now, something else that showed up in 1.0.5 is the ability to, let's see if I can find it here. And I don't have it yet, but at some point, you gain the ability to turn on the biomes, a biome map from the map view and highlight all of the different biomes on the planet. But all of the biomes at the KSC still don't show up. Granularity just isn't there. You can't zoom in close enough to see them. And in a minute, I'll show you, I'll prove to you what I'm talking about. But each of the buildings at the KSC has its own biome. So the runway has its own biome. The astronaut center has its own biome, and you can do science there. It's not a whole lot, but if you're desperately waiting for that last little bit to finish off a science project that you need, or you want to get a quick head start, you come out here to the launch pad, and you see it says crew report from launch pad, and that's your indication right there that you're in a different biome. So we're just going to save that and run both of the mystery goos. You see here, now recovery's got 3.0, but that bar is not full, right? If the bar is not full when you're collecting science in whatever way, right, then there's still more to get. So record that there, and we can do an EVA. So we're here. Now you got two options now. He's not very far off the ground, but if I do an EVA report right now, it says while flying over Kerbal shores. And you can get credit for that in the flying area of Kerbal shores. Now that's not really what I want, so I'm going to reset that, and I'm going to drop him off, come out just a little bit away just to get some distance, and collect another EVA report. It's EVA report from Launchpad this time. Don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here. No, probably not. But you can keep that data, and then we can crawl back in, just because it makes it easier to collect it all at once. Go ahead and board, and then collect that from the Launchpad. And what you're going to see is Jebediah is not going to get any experience points credit for this, but you do get all of this wonderful, wonderful science, and it doesn't cost you anything in terms of funds. Oh, he did get an experience point. I did not expect that. And you gained 2 reputation. But you also get one of your world first milestones, which is something new in 1.0.4 or 0.5. I think it actually came out first in 0.0.4, and then they refined it in 0.0.5. And so just for doing that little bit right there, you've completed the first EVA test at home, first recovery of a crew from a mission, and one of the first experiments at home, which is worth a little bit of money. And we're just going to discard that because we don't need to know about that anymore. I had to take a little break there for a second, but so now we're done with that, and that was the easy one. So that's right there at the launch pad. We're going to come back out here, and what we want to do is spend some of that science. Maybe not right away, maybe in a minute. But so you've got the launch pad, which has its own biome, and then in between the launch pad, see how the launch pad is only highlighting up to about this point? In between the launch pad and the vehicle assembly building is this long stretch of land right here, and if you walk down along that, that's the causeway, and you can collect more science from in the causeway. You got the tracking station, which has its own science to collect, its own biome. Research and development has its own biome, and it's bounded. When you hover over it, you can see the boundary lines highlighted just a little bit. So it's right there, and along there, and then along here. The astronaut complex, the administration building, spaceplane hangar, mission control, and the runway all have their own biomes. Yeah. It takes a little bit of walking around to get to everything, but oh, and you can start. You just finished the first one on the launch pad. You can already pick up a new science container and run it right away with the 5 science that you collected. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then take Jebediah out for a little spin around the facilities. So now, science juniors are ones that don't collect a whole lot of science. They don't collect all of the science that they can the first time you use them in any given location. And just to be sure that we've gotten everything, we're going to load up the 2 mystery goo containers and launch this. Now, taking off from the runway or the spaceplane hangar is going to be a little bit more difficult because we don't have any wheels yet. But as we go along, at some point we'll get wheels, and that'll make everything a lot easier. So run these 2, and see again, it doesn't finish, but collect both of those, get our crew report. Now the crew report completed last time, so we don't really need that. Check the mystery goo, see how those went. And see, even though I collected twice last time, there's still that tiny little bit of science left over. So I'm going to collect both of those, make sure I got everything, send Jebediah on his EVA, and you know, I don't want to send him running around just yet. So we're going to collect that flying EVA and get right back on board and recover. And it was pretty simple. We collected 7.7 on the first trip, I think it was. And we see we're already up to 17.5, and we've spent 5 already as well. Now this time he doesn't get any experience because he hasn't done anything new. Take it back, head on over to the spaceplane hangar, and let's see if we can get some more science from over here. And we figured out that we need at least 4 of the mystery goo. Let's get that turned so it can stand upright. Then we need, just because I'm a gambling man and I'm thinking that we didn't finish all of the mystery, or all of the science juniors over on the launch pad, we're going to hook up all of them here and attach 6 mystery goos, and then launch that out on the runway. And this should give us another decent amount of starting science. And you'll notice I didn't even have to technically launch any of these to collect all of this science. So it doesn't count as a vehicle launch. That's the first side. Get the crew report. Then head on over to the other side and get the other mystery goos. Mystery 1, 2, 3. And you'll see up here it increments that to show how many you've got active. And then all of the Science Juniors. So we're collecting all 4 of the Science Juniors, and we still have that EVA report that we can do. I'm not sure if he's going to get EVA from above the runway. Nope, that's flying at Kerbal Shores. So we're going to ignore that and then head down onto the runway. Don't die, don't die. Yeah, I didn't really think he would. It's not that far of a drop. Even in Kerbal gravity, it's not that far. And get his EVA report. Keep that. You notice it said from the runway. We're going to recover the vessel first. Not that it matters. It doesn't make any difference where we recover them in. But recover the vessel first. And we got 15 science for that one little stint out on the runway. Parts. And there's no crew, obviously, because he's still sitting out there on the runway, but we recovered everything from the parts that we used. And then just slide on over here. And this is a new feature as well, I think, with 1.0.3. You just click them out there and either fly or recover if they're landed on the surface. And he gets another 2.4 for the crew report, but no experience. Now let's see if we can get some parts that'll let us move around a little bit easier. Stability, rockets, and it could be a while before we get to wheels. I don't see them anywhere. For those of you paying attention, you'll see the MechJeb case here. The MechJeb is the only mod that I have installed at this point. Let's see how far we go. Gotta go to get wheels. It looks like it's going to be a little bit too... There's the first wheel that I think we can get, and that's 90 science. So it might be worth it just to take off and go into some advanced flying. Oh yeah, radial decoupler. Those are awesome to have. So we're going to pick that up. And we don't really have enough science left over to pick up anything else. So there's a quick little thing that we can do, because like I said, this is primarily to get science to tide you over or to jump start you in the very beginning. So we can drop that down there. Not going to take anything else on it, I don't think, because there isn't really a whole lot of point to doing so. So nope, we're just going to launch that. And immediately send Jebediah on EVA. I'm not a big fan of using physics time acceleration, especially for videos that you're recording, but in this case I'm going to make an exception because the runway is way far away from everything, and we need to get this little bugger out to the other end of the Space Center. Actually, we may not even need to do that. The runway is pretty thin as far as targets are concerned, or as far as biomes are concerned, so let's see if we can't get him a Grasslands EVA. Yep, from the KSC. So the KSC is a hole has its own biome as well, and you can use that to help out even more. Recover him. Squeeze out those few extra science points. Oh, here's a fun little trick. So earlier on, we had this thing sitting upright, and you don't have to do it that way. In fact, you probably won't want to if you're employing this little trick. So you slap a bunch of Science Juniors on here. You don't need to slap any mystery goo on, but you can. However, if you're going to do it this way, do not put them on the sides, as that'll stop the craft from rolling. What you want to do is you want to put them on the end, or maybe the front. I haven't tested the front out all that well to see if it'll work. And I think we're gonna go with 2, just because I like things to have nice symmetry, and it doesn't look like doing it the other way. Yeah, it's not going symmetry on the wide axis. It's just going symmetry on the tall axis. So launch this, clear the runway, and proceed, and we get all the money back from the craft that we left sitting out there. But again, no science, because we didn't do any science experiments with it, and no reputation or experience because we didn't have a crew left. Now here we are sitting on the runway, and we have these directional controls for when you're rotating a craft. Now this does take up electric charge, and you don't have a whole lot to begin with, but you get it spinning a little bit. And I hate the physics time warp, but I'm using it just to speed things up a little bit, because I don't think that I have a whole lot of time for my first YouTube video. And I think it's already starting to mess with the way that this thing is spinning, in fact. But it will spin off the end of the runway and down into the grasslands on either side. And that will allow you to get a ton more science just from those 2 mystery goos and the 2 Science Juniors. So let's see if we're far enough yet. No, that's still on the runway. And I'm pretty sure you can see the slope coming off the side of the runway. I'm pretty sure that once we clear that slope, we'll be back in the KSC for a little while. And I'm pretty sure, although I haven't tested it all the way, that on this side of the KSC, you run directly into the grasslands, but on this side of the KSC, it's KSC pretty much all the way to the ocean. Now we should be far enough off by now. And you'll notice it started kind of turning. That's just an artifact of the way you're spinning it, and there's not going to be a whole lot you can do. If you keep going, you will eventually wind up back on the runway, or attempting to get back on the runway, I should say, because it's not going to work. And there we are on the KSC. So we're going to record all of these just to make sure we get every little bit out of it. And both of the mystery goos, which we'll still have some mystery goo left over to be able to check out here. But also we're going to get the crew report. So save the crew report. 2 materials, 3 materials, and the 2 mystery goos, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know what's using up all this power right now, but I don't have anything turned on, so it shouldn't be. Anyway, not really relevant. Go ahead and recover that, and let's see how much science we got out of it. That was an additional 14.8 science, which sounds about right, because the last couple of times we did this, we had to go back to get 0.2 science using the other mystery goo that was left behind. Now we still don't have enough for wheels, but we're going to try. We're going to go back over here to the runway. Can't really get to the causeway just yet, but we're going to stick just a couple of engine, or a couple of fuel tanks, a parachute, and an engine on here, and see what we can't can't accomplish. Gotta make sure to split these off. That could be a problem. Now this won't go very far and it won't go very fast, but it should be enough to get us a couple of those world firsts that I was showing you earlier. And with the world firsts, there's a couple of things that you can do, right? Especially if you want to jumpstart the way you're beginning, you can shoot straight up to get a whole bunch of the world firsts, or you can try to go as far away from the KSC as you can. Either one is a fine option, and they're not mutually exclusive. You can do one first and then the other. I tend to go with the straight up first because we are, after all, playing Kerbal Space Program and not Kerbal Aircraft Program. And you see it's lit up here already. We got the speed record, first vessel, speed record again, altitude record, speed record, and it's just going to keep collecting as we go along. Oh, too fast. That was something else that I wanted to point out that doesn't get covered a lot in most of the other videos. When you start seeing those aerodynamic effects on your vehicle as it's traveling upwards, that means that you have broken the terminal velocity of the vehicle at that altitude, and you really ought to be slowing down. Because anything faster than terminal velocity, and you're expending more fuel than you're getting benefit from. I know it seems kind of strange to think about it that way, but it's actually pushing too much through the air, generating friction more than it's generating thrust. But once those aerodynamic effects go away, you can start, firing things up again. And there we go. We're out of gas. At this point, I'm going to speed it up 4 times physics acceleration just until it gets to the height of the apogee, and then deploy the parachute. 4 times physics acceleration again as we go down. Oh, we're flying here. We can probably take a decent, slow down, take a decent crew report. And I am going to crash into the surface most painfully because my parachute destroyed because it wasn't going slow enough. That could be a problem. Aerodynamic effects coming down means that you're doing good things at this point because your vessel is slowing down. And yeah, this is gonna hurt Jebediah a lot because I don't have the astronaut, and he crashed into the surface. So I'm going to revert that back to launch and try it again. That'll reset the world firsts achievements, but it'll also give me a chance to save Jebediah's life, which I kind of want to do because Jebediah is awesome, and well, he's frankly everybody's favorite Kerbal. So you notice I'm only going with the default thrust. This engine, for this amount of fuel and weight that it has, is more than sufficient to reach terminal velocity rather quickly even. And even if I cut it down to just a minimum amount of power, we're not accelerating anymore, but we're not slowing down all that fast either. In fact, I think that's about 15%, and we're barely slowing down at all. And or is it? Yeah, it's about 10 to 15%, and we're actually still picking up speed. One of the more interesting things that you can do is just cut the speed entirely, wait for your surface speed to drop off, almost down to 0, because it's going to give you a lot more height. And as you, especially in the lower atmosphere, as you clear more height, you experience less wind resistance. I don't know if it has a cumulative effect when you fire the engines back up, if you fire them back up at apogee, if it's worth it or not. But it's a cool thing to try out. And getting really close to, okay, so we're just going to fire it up full blast and see what we can get out of that. Okay, shutting it down because we're just peaked into those aerodynamic effects, and I've got just a little bit of fuel left. And I want to save that to slow Jebediah down on his way down. Let's see if we can get that crew report now. There we go. Crew report while flying over Kerbal shores. Now, I could get really crazy and try to do an EVA report, but as you saw, getting the EVA report from flying at Kerbal shores, you really just have to be parked on the launch pad and have your Kerbal hanging off the side. So I've got a little bit of fuel left over, so I'm going to pump it back up to 4 times acceleration in the physics engine, and let it shoot on down to the surface. This particular parachute's only good for about 250 meters per second, so really want to turn this thing on its side to slow it down. And yes, it really does make a difference having it turned on its side versus shooting straight down. You can't, I don't know if you can tell from here or not, but as I turn it to one side or the other, it actually starts to drift in the atmosphere in one direction or the other. And 4,000 meters. I'm not sure if we're going to slow down enough because I don't think we have enough sideways tilt. So at 2,000, fire the engine back up and then deploy the parachute and hope that I got slowed down enough that it doesn't break. It deploys at 1,000. Oh, it's still, nope, crashed. You know what, I'm just going to go ahead and take that and hit Space Center. And that'll do it this time. Not quite. We didn't recover anything, but we did get all those world first milestones. So discard those and call it a day.